I received a comment on my video. Please add a video on Google and GitHub authentication. So I'm gonna create video on these two topics. So far, if you looked at our application, you can log in. After login, you can look at the dashboard route. Let me log in. So we want to allow user to log in with GitHub and log in with Google. If you have any topic idea I need to create, or if you want to suggest any video topic, you can send me the comment, or you can email me at heather@heathermalik.dev. Now we're gonna implement social authentication. I choose the passport because in the last video we used the cookie based authentication with passport module. We're gonna follow the same structure. This time passport provides two packages: passport Google Auth 2.0 or passport GitHub 2. We're gonna use Google Auth for Google authentication and passport GitHub for GitHub authentication. First of all, you need to install two packages on your backend project. I'll call it passport Google OAuth 2. Actually, OAuth 2.0. This package has installed. I also need to install passport GitHub 2. To authenticate with Google, we need to create a new project to the Google console. You can Google that, Google console, Google Cloud Console, and then you need to log in to your Google Cloud Console account, and from here you should create a new project. I can choose any name. I can say Next.js, next Google Auth. A new project has created. Let me select that project. This project has been selected now. Next, you should search APIs and services. And here you should enable the APIs and services. You should go to the OAuth consent screen. OAuth overview. Let's set up the OAuth. You should add the name, app name. NextJS auth. Support email. Continue. You should select the external. Let's create. Please add your contact information. Finish, continue, and save. Auth configuration created. Let's create the auth client. The application should be web application. Now I'm going to create the OAuth client. You should select the web application Here you should provide the name of your OAuth client. I'm gonna use the default name. You should add the authorized redirect URIs. Don't add this one, authorized JavaScript origin. If you have production ready URL, you will add in this way: https your domain.com/auth/Google and callback. But for the local host, we're gonna use that. Here you should add your backend URL. What was our backend URL? Let me double check that. From the env, backend URL is 3001, so I can add here 3001. Let's create our OAuth client. Here you should copy your client ID and client secret, or if you want to download, you can also do that. Let's say I want to download my JSON. Here is my OAuth client ID. So I can just paste it here. You need client ID and client secret. So when you click on this application, web client, you should copy your client ID and you also need client secret. Don't copy mine. I will delete my client ID and client secret. Or you can add that into Google client ID. Here I can say Google client secret. Now we're gonna do some OAuth settings for GitHub. We need client ID and client secret. We also need to set the authorized URI, just like we did for Google. You should Google GitHub developer settings, or you can directly go to that link, github.com settings and developers. I'm gonna create a new OAuth app. You should fill the name. I can say Next.js, NextJS, OAuth. The homepage URL should be localhost colon 3000. This is the Next.js frontend URL. And auth application description, optional, authorization. Let's set the authorization callback URL, http localhost 3001. Let's enable the device flow. I'm gonna register the application. You should get the client ID. I also need client secret. So I'm gonna copy my client secret first. I'll call it GitHub client secret. And here is the client ID. GitHub client ID. Let's comment that social auth. Before implementing the OAuth, I want you to understand the flow of the OAuth. User clicks on the login. We will have button, do you want to log in with Google or GitHub? Let's say a user is selecting the Google. So when click, it makes a request to your, like, when user click on the Google, it's gonna see the page from the Google, right? Nest.js uses passport strategy. This triggers a redirect to GitHub authorization URL. User will see this screen. User clicked on login with Google, and he will see the Google consent screen. Then you allow that. Do you want to allow this application to log into your account? And then if user allowed, Google will send the API request to our authorization URL. In our case, localhost 3001 with auth Google callback, and he will provide the code. First step, he will provide the code, and you will send the API request with the same auth code. This is how your Google will send the access token. To get the access token, first Google will send the auth code. You will receive the code, and you will send back to the code to the Google, and then Google will send the access token, and you will receive the access token. Next.js uses the access token in the Google case to fetch user information. Yes, when you receive the access token, your passport will make the API request to access the user profile, and then you will get the user profile. And backend issues your own JWT. In our case, we can issue our own JWT. And Next.js uses cookie for auth. You don't need to manually store the tokens. The browser automatically sends the access token cookie with every request. Under the hood, this is the short form. Google, user click on the Google button, and our application send the API request to the Google server. So user will allow that, hey, I wanna allow this application to access my profile, and our application will exchange the code to receive the access token. When we will receive the access token, we will access the user profile by using the access token, and then we will implement the same same flow cookie based authentication. Our next step is to create a strategy for Google and GitHub. You can create strategy in the auth folder, just like we did JWT strategy. You should create a new file called Google strategy. Should be google.strategy.ts TypeScript file. Let's export the class Google strategy. Get rid of these methods. This will extend the passport Google strategy, passport strategy, passport strategy. And I should provide the strategy here from the passport Google Auth 2. I should import it from here. Google Auth 2 strategy. The first argument is strategy, second one is Google. This passport strategy provides the validate method. You must need to override this method. Instead of process.env, we need to inject config service. Config service. I'll call it config service. I should provide Google client ID here. I can get that config service dot get. It should be string and Google client ID. I also need to provide the password, actually Google secret key. Config service, yes. I also need to define the Google callback URL, but we did not define that. Let's use it here. Be localhost :auth Google callback. We are interested in these two properties, email and the profile. So validate method will have access token, refresh token, profile. And it will have the done method. It should be verify callback. The verify callback from Google Passport. Make sure you import it from here. Verify callback. Verify callback. Actually, I did not install the typing. Verify callback. I got the email and the name or display name, or I should get the display name from the profile. And what I want to do, let's create the user. Let's build the user. Email should be emails dot 0. I also need to get the name. It should be display name, and provider should be Google. At the end, I'm gonna call the callback function done with null and user. I'm having a lot of prettier issues. Let's define the Google login route handler. It will use the auth card, which is Google, and I can say that get Google Auth. Make sure you have auth card imported from the NestJS passport. next route, we need to define Google callback. Google will use that route to exchange the code with us. In the last video, I showed you the code or auth flow. Now I have attached the guard, Google callback. The first one is request handler. Second one is response. It's gonna return the message. It will give me the user, and I will have to log in with user, log in with Google. But we did not created that method yet. For the login, it's gonna return the same message. Login successful. Token is set in cookie. Or I can say that social login. I can follow the same path, same plan for cookie. Now we need to define the social login method in the auth service. We have to implement that. When we have registered that route, Google will call that Google callback. So we're gonna get the token back. Then we should store that token in the cookie. One more thing you can do, you can redirect your application to dashboard. Rest.redirect. I can navigate to localhost :3000/dashboard. I can do the same thing for GitHub. I'm gonna copy these two methods and I can paste it here. Instead of Google Auth, I'll call it GitHub Auth. GitHub Auth. Here it should be GitHub. This should be GitHub. It should be GitHub callback. We will implement the social login later. It should be GitHub callback. Auth card should be GitHub. We did not implement the social login method. Let's do that. I'm gonna declare the method. When you open the auth service, you should see the social login method. It will take the user data and the type should be email, string, and provider. Yeah. First of all, we need to find the user by email. I can use the user service. Do I have find by email method in the user service? Yes, find user by email. I should use that. So I have to inject the user service. User service. multiple constructor. I already imported the user service. I don't need to do that. So get the user back. This should be async await, async function. Let's choose that. It should be user data. This dot user service dot find user by email, and if there is a no user, we should create the user. Otherwise, we have to send the JSON web token. I think I need first name and the last name. Yes. I'm also not saving the user name. I'm also not saving the user provider which is Google. Yes, password can be empty for social logins, assuming last name is optional or not required. When you open the type ORM user entity, I have to set that null label to true, or last name should be null label to true. This one is running, and if I run my project, do I get any error? Let's check that. What is an issue? Prod does not exist. Database Pomodoro prod does not exist. Docker compose Pomodoro prod does not exist. I found an issue. I restarted my container and it worked. I ran the Docker compose up, and then my application is started now. So now our goal is to test these endpoints, this one and this one. We have to send the API request from the Next.js project. Now we need to add the login with Google or login with GitHub. We need two buttons or two links here. Let's add the divider first. It should be div class name flex item center. I want that. I don't need justify between. I need my for margin. Div class name flex grow border t and border gray 300. That's what I want. I can add a span with mx4. No, let's change that. Span class name px2 text gray 500, text small, I'll say or, and I should div flex grow border t border gray 300. That is it. If you look at that, you will see the or here. Let's add social login buttons. I'll say social login buttons. Flex justify, I don't need that. I need column, right? I'll say flex column, and I need space y2. Here I need an anchor tag, href. I'm gonna use backtick. Href backtick here, process.env next public API URL auth/Google. First we need to add the Google. This one is the link, and I can add the button here, login with Google. Type should be button. Class name be full background red. Background red 500. Hover, that looks good. Background red 500. Hover background red 600. That looks good. You can see that login with Google, right? Now we need login with GitHub. So we created the column, so I can do that here. This should be GitHub. For GitHub we can use login with GitHub. For GitHub I can use over background gray 800, hover gray 900, hover gray. That looks good. So we designed these social buttons. We created the column and added the space on y-axis and added the span. It should be, I think, API/auth/Google. Send the localhost 3000 /API. We will fix that issue. This problem mostly come from config service.get. It is not reading the Google client ID, Google client secret, and Google callback URL. It should be Google callback URL. Callback URL. Right. When you go to the auth module, I think if I comment this code, if I go to app module, I've set it as a root. Google strategy line number 8. This one. Config service. if I use config module.for feature auth module, not this one, for root, no, this is not working. I have to fix that. I can confirm that if I use process.env.google ID, or if I use process.env Google client secret, if I use process.env.callback URL, now it is working now, but we have to fix this one, config service. Why config service is not working? Private read only. Oh, I'm getting the error. I have to fix that. I found the issue because I did not add the injectable here. That was the typo mistake. Injectable. So import injectable from NestJS common. I was importing. Now it looks good. I can remove that. Most of the time you learn a lot of things by making mistakes. If I click on the login with Google, it has navigated to the Google consent screen, as I told you. It is taking some time. If I remove the network tab, it is making the API request to the Google account, auth to v2. These are all the query parameters. If you closely look at these query parameters, if I can paste them here just for understanding, this is what Google is doing. Query parameters, auth is equals to response type is equals to code. First it will send the code, then our application send the code, this code, it could be 546 whatever, it will send back to the Google, then Google will send the JSON web token redirect URL. This is our redirect URL. Now I can log into my account. Spectacular. Google Authentication worked very well. If I look at my profile, if I go to the dashboard, it worked. But I will fix that because I think we did not save. Did I save the user back? I'll figure it out. Actually we did not create the profile route or profile page, so I found the issue. Everything is fine now. Our application is working fine. What I want to do, I want to restart my project into debug mode. You should click here and start the project in debug mode. I want to show you what is going here. I'm going to put breakpoint into Google strategy in this file, display name and profile. What else I want to do? If I go to the Google, yes, this one, what is going on here, when it is going to call, I'm going to log out. Now I'm going to log in with Google. I'm going to select my account. Now this Google strategy has executed the validate method. It gave me the access token and refresh token. So I got the profile, I got emails. This is the response I got from the Google. This is a name. We can split that name into first name and the last name. It should be family name and given name. So I can create first name. It should be display name should be dot. I think it's a, is it an array? Display name should be, yeah, we gotta split that. Yes, display name. And for last name, I can split the last name. If I want to add a provider, I can also do that in type orem store the provider. It depends on you. So we got the email. So I restarted the application. Now you should see that again. Click on the Google. I'm gonna log in with my previous account, this one. I got the display name in the email. Now if you check the user, you will have the first name, last name, and the provider. Now it has executed this Google callback. Google called this callback URL. So I got the user, right? And I'm gonna provide that user to my social login. Here I can get the first name by data.firstname, because now we are sending the first name in the last name dot last name. I can use that here, first name and last name. This is what we are getting from. Refresh it again. I don't need password for social login. Repeat this process again. Log in with Google. Now I got the display name. This is our user object. User has email, first name, last name, and provider. So request.user. User called this. Actually, Google called this Google/callback URL, and it gave me the user, right? And our social login is checking the user by email. If there is a no user, actually we already created that user, so it will not go to this route, this check. So it's gonna return the JSON web token based on the user. Now we're gonna save the token to the cookie, and it has redirected. This one is for profile. This is a complete flow. If you check the access token in the cookie, you will find that. Let's say here you will find access token, this one. So we have implemented it with Google Authentication. Next, I will implement the GitHub Authentication. Just like Google, we also need a GitHub strategy. We defined the route, but we did not define the strategy. I'm gonna create a new file called github.strategy. strategy.ts. I'm gonna paste everything from the Google. This one should be GitHub client ID, GitHub client ID, and GitHub client secret, GitHub callback URL, GitHub callback URL, and I need user email. This one. What it will return, it will give me the username, it will give me the photos, email from the profile, this should be a function. Yeah, make sure you set the GitHub and you import the strategy from GitHub, passport GitHub, passport GitHub. I think I did not install that. I have to install this strategy. Passport GitHub 2, GitHub 2. For provider, it should be GitHub, and for provider ID, profile.id. Provider, I don't need provider ID. For email, it should be emails. It should give me this emails dot value. Email and first name. Email provider ID. Let's say profile.id. Let's say if I set the first name to username, let's see what it is going to return. I'm gonna restart my application. My application is running on debug mode. Make sure you import that strategy just like we did for the Google. I'll call it GitHub strategy. Import the GitHub strategy. GitHub strategy. Yeah, GitHub strategy. Let's import it. Now I'm gonna log in with GitHub. You can see GitHub consent screen. Welcome to Pomodoro app. So you can check the access token. I think it did not save the access token in the GitHub strategy. I forgot to add localhost colon. What is doing here? GitHub callback. It should redirect to the dashboard. Log in with GitHub. Here's an issue, we need to fix that. The reason it is navigated to this route because I did not set the authorized callback URL correctly. It should be auth, it should be call GitHub. Let me check that from the env. Oh, I did not define the GitHub callback URL. It should be GitHub callback URL auth Google/callback. Oops. Yep. GitHub callback URL auth. It should be GitHub callback URL. I should copy that and I have to paste it here. I'm gonna update the application. Now I should go back to the localhost. I should log in with GitHub. I can see my consent screen. Now you can see that I got the profile. This is spectacular. I got username, provider, GitHub, profile URL, photos, email, display name. I should use the same strategy, display name. What I can do, Google strategy. I should copy the same strategy. I can get display name, copy the same strategy, display name, provider is GitHub, refresh the application. I don't need username and pass photos, so I'm gonna remove that. Let's continue, log in with GitHub. Now I should get the, let me check the user. We have first name, last name, provider, which is GitHub. So now it has called this GitHub callback. So I got the token back. Actually, it has found the user. User did not find, so it's gonna create a new user with this email. I'm gonna provide first name, email. I don't need to set the password. You can also set the provider here, like GitHub provider or something like that. I can add provider in the user entity. Refresh the token. Now this profile handler will be called. So our GitHub and Google Authentication is working fine now. We did not implement the session, Pomodoro session. User can start the timer for specific time interval. We will implement that feature in the future videos.